welcome back to Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. I posted an article that was from March 11th of 2016. 15 days before the release of Batman v Superman. Unleashed to incredible critic backlash, unleashed to divisive fans. But before all that, before anybody has even seen Batman v Superman, I wanted to point it out. This is what Chris Terrio, who they were already planning and writing Justice League before Batman v Superman came out, before the backlash, before anything of that sort. And I want to read you a brief part of it. You can go ahead. I have the article in the link below. I put it on Facebook and some of the communities, and I just want to give it a little more appeal. I want this to be out in the open more. I want every type of medium to look at this and say it's not totally in response to the backlash. There is something to Justice League, the way the tone of Justice League, the way the humor is added in, the way everything is part of it, the way it's going to culminate the end of the trilogy of the Superman birth, the origin of Superman. It has been in the plan. It might not have been in the plan by Man of Steel, but it has definitely been in the plan from BVS and on. So let me read just a little bit excerpt of what I mean. There's a lot of in here that Chris Terrio was talking about, but as you know, he at this point in time there was him writing Justice League Part 1. Now it's no longer Justice League Part 1, and it's just Justice League, but here we go. He said that when he was working on BVS and he wasn't sure, he wasn't the guy to do Justice League, but he wanted to do something else, but he's seen a couple scenes in BVS, and this is the quote starts, "At that moment I thought, I'm not done with this yet. I want to go back and keep telling the story. Batman v Superman is a bit of an Empire Strikes Back or Two Towers or any similar middle film in a trilogy. The middle film tends to be the darkest one. I do think from Man of Steel through Justice League it is one saga, really. I expect Justice League will be tonally not quite as dark as Batman v Superman. From that point of view, I felt compelled to go back and try to lift us and myself into a different tonal place, because I think when you write a darker film, sometimes you want to redeem it all a bit." So just listening to those words, it is incredibly obvious that Chris Terrio meant and Zack Snyder meant to do this all along. This whole thing about notion about the Justice League was scrapped entirely, and then they tried to make it more of hope, more rebirth, Jeff Johns coming in and doing all these tonal changes to us, is totally not true. Now I understand that there could be parts of it, parts of the humor brought into the Justice League we have now, and they're bringing that out to light more because of the backlash. They were bringing it out into the trailers, and we see a lot of that humor because they want to, the marketing team wants to give that appeal that there is humor without showing us the whole movie. I get that. They're doing that because of the backlash, but I think most of that was already set in stone. And when that time when they brought on all those critics and all those media, they brought on a few of them, or maybe a group of them, to see the behind the scenes, to the sets. They want to show them that, look, this is what we've been doing. This is what we've been doing. We've already worked this in. We've filmed it. This is the kind of stuff we're doing. Don't worry. We had this tonal change and all at the time. I don't really care to have a tonal change to even enjoy a movie. If it has a good story, then I'm going to enjoy it, and it has a good mythology, I'm going to enjoy it. So that is why I do enjoy Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, and I do think that Justice League that's coming out is the completion of the Superman story. Now you're saying that's not the Superman sequel, that's not Man of Steel 2. No, it really is. A sequel is a movie that comes right thereafter. Then you're going to argue that Suicide Squad should be part of it. Well, Suicide Squad didn't carry on the characters of Man of Steel. They didn't carry on the characters of Batman v Superman. Yeah, you see Batman a little bit, but you can call that a cameo. You see Flash a little bit, you can call that a cameo. You see a little scene from Batman v Superman at the beginning with the coffin. That's just a little bit of a scene just to give you what part of the world this Suicide Squad is in right now, what part of the timeline it is in. So I call that a spin-off. So I do like Suicide Squad, though. That's one of my enjoyable DC films. Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League completes Superman's arc. He comes into the world not knowing who he is, what he should do. Very complex character, not black and white, very gray, and then he starts to work into that, but realizing the damage he has caused, the divisiveness of the world itself, divisiveness, just like how we are divided, divisiveness in the world in Batman v Superman, and what horrific man who was born from the catastrophe that Man of Steel done, and what that will do to Superman, and ultimately Superman showing his sacrifice for the world to show that I do care for the world, I do love the world, this is my world, I am human. In that sense, and he was ready to sacrifice and give hope to the world. And now Justice League, we're going to see a world without a Superman, and that we do need him back as the Superman we all know and love. And so that completes the arc, and I think that it really is what this whole thing is massively about. And I could go on to how this compares to Star Wars. I know you're gonna be like, you crazy, this is not Star Wars, what? But it really kind of does. And I was thinking of this over the weekend, where you get Luke. You get Luke in New Hope. You get introduced to Luke. He starts to learn how to be a Jedi, just like how Clark Kent learns how to become Superman. Then they have this end of the world type ordeal with the Death Star. Luke has to use some of his force to destroy the Death Star and save the universe, just like how Man of Steel fight Zod and the rest of his own kind to save the Earth from turning the world into another Krypton, to terraform. So they both have that catastrophic feel to it. They're both just learning of their potential and of what they can do. Then when we get to Batman v Superman, when we get into Empire Strikes Back, Luke has got more powers. He is able to grab that saber with his own use of the Force without even holding it, and he's able to train with Yoda. In this part, it may be a little bit different, but it's kind of the same when you're thinking Luke is talking to Yoda. Yoda is teaching him about what he should be, who he is, the darkness that could be inside him, especially at that scene where he's in the Dagobah forest and Darth Vader comes out and he strikes him down and shows that it's him. So he's struggling with the dark side in Empire Strikes Back, juxtaposed with Batman v Superman, where Superman learns more about himself, struggles with his dark and light side when after the Senate blew up, and he goes and travels all the way to the mountains to talk to Pa Kent, almost like Luke is traveling to Dagobah to talk to Yoda. That struggles with that to learn more about how to become Superman, forgive himself for things he can't say. That line where he tells Lois as he flies off to go and fight Batman about maybe not having to be good in the world, and so he's still struggling with that, just like Luke, all the way towards the end of Empire Strikes Back. He fights against Darth Vader and then ultimately loses his hand. I don't have to tell you what happens in Empire Strikes Back. I'm pretty sure everybody has seen this, but it's a dark ending. Han Solo gets carbon frozen, it cuts to black, and that's it. So Superman dies. And it's almost like a combine. Superman dies, he gets in a coffin, he is thrown out, a sacrifice has been made. Batman finds out that he should be a better man. They gather heroes together to fight Darkseid or whatever he thinks it's coming. Just like in Empire Strikes Back, they get together. They have to go free Han Solo. And Luke has to train to be a Master Jedi, which I think he does. In Return of the Jedi, he doesn't complete his training, but he's more a master. And interesting enough, he is kind of on the dark side at the beginning. He's wearing all black. He does the choking thing in the Jabba Hutt's. When he enters Jabba Hutt's, he does that to the guards. He does the choking thing, which is like a Sith type move, right? A dark side type move. Maybe we'll get some of that. Maybe Superman will come back a little bit more evil, and then we'll have find himself towards the end. Then we'll have a little more light-hearted. It's more hope. It's the final battle, and it culminates into a giant happy ending, which is just like Return of the Jedi and Justice League. I don't know about that because we haven't seen Justice League yet, and I can't wait to see it. I really can't wait to see it. But I'm thinking this is the type of things they're talking about, what Chris Terrell's talking about, having it be compared to Star Wars in that sense. It could also be compared to the Two Towers, Lord of the Rings. It was a little bit dark, but it's had some hopeful moments, but it introduced you to the world. And then Two Towers, it was a great ending, but a lot of sacrifices in that one, and then something like Return of the King and Justice League. So if you look at it that way, a trilogy, you can say that Superman will culminate his entire arc of becoming the Superman we all know and love by the end of Justice League, and then that will give way to the Matthew Vaughn or whoever is directing Superman 2. I hope that's the last time I talk about Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. My thoughts on it, probably not. It's going to come up here and there, but I just want everybody to know that these articles have come out. This article has come out in March of 2016, before anybody had anything to say about Batman v Superman. I have another article from Digital Spy. Damon Caro, who served as assistant director on both films, has pulled out some familiar Star Wars comparisons to explain what Warner Brothers is doing with his DCEU movies. The interesting thing is, on Man of Steel, in director Zack Snyder's head, he had the storyline treatment of where they were going to go, and at the beginning of BVS, it was even richer and deeper. The arc was... BVS was the midway point and the darker movie, hence what happens at the end. The whole tone of it was darker. If you play your story all at one level, there are no peaks and valleys, there's no life. The great stories, the Greek tragedies, even life, we have to be knocked down before we can build our way up. Justice League was always the rebirth of hope and the rise. People try to say that it's a response to the backlash, and I definitely say that criticisms were heard. But it's not like we threw everything out and started with a blank slate. It's a bit like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Dark movie, but then Return of the Jedi is the rise and the rebuilding of hope. That pretty much sums up what I just said. I could have just said that. So that's from Digital Spy, and that was published on February 10th of 2017. Alright guys, what do you guys think of these two articles? Do you think this was the plan all along, or did they adapt it, or did they completely change it? Alright guys, thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week. Bye.